Hello and welcome to Inform New Hampshire. My name is Dean. This is Richie, my co-host to the right. And we broadcast every Monday evening, 6:30 p.m. on Manchester Cable Channel 23. We also have a YouTube channel, which is called Inform New Hampshire. And we also have on Facebook a Facebook group, which is called Inform New Hampshire. So stop by and see some of the things we post. Richie and I have been doing this for a year. We were very concerned with the condition of our country and the direction we were headed. Richie originally was the state coordinator for National Liberty Alliance. I joined him about a year ago, and we were working towards, and still are working towards, the common law grand jury, reinstating the common law grand jury here in the country, in particular in New Hampshire. And the common law grand juries are a fourth branch of government designed for we the people to control and to keep our government in check, to root out corruption. And it was taken from us in 1946. And keep in mind that this is something that we the people have had since back around the Magna Carta year 1215. So it is a well-established tradition for us to manage our government. And again, it was stolen from us by the criminal elements that are operating our privately owned corporation masquerading as a government, providing government services, if you will. So let's see. So today, let's just have a quick, do you want to say something about Jerry DeLamus here, Richie?
Yes, I would like to ask people to continue to support Jerry and Sue. I know it's been at least a year now since Jerry's been imprisoned in Nevada. He's entitled to a speedy trial, so they're right on track for that. Anyway, you might sense a little sarcasm in my voice. It's because I can't stand little innocent people being subjected to this type of torture by the people who are the criminals. Anyway, you can go to freejerrydelemus.com, and it's JERRYDELEMUS.com. And if you can contribute money, that would be great. I'm sure him and his wife would appreciate it. Keep him in your prayers. I also wanted to say one thing about NLA. I've been with NLA a long time now. I don't know how long, 3 or 4 years, I guess. And Dean's been with us a couple of years now. So NLA showed me the way in a lot of different areas. They have a tremendous civics course and a constitutional course that's totally free. As a matter of fact, I heard the legislature is talking in New Hampshire about mandating a civics course for children. I would love to see that, and that's a great idea. But prior to doing that, I would love to see the legislators taking a civics course, because there's quite a few of them that are clueless. And I don't think they've ever read this document, the state constitution. Sorry to be so blunt, but that's just the facts of the matter. Anyway, sign up with National Liberty Alliance this year and help them accomplish their mission, which means restore the rule of law for the people in this country. They need your assistance. They need your help. If you're sitting there complaining about everything you see, this is an opportunity for you to get something done. So go to nationallibertyalliance.org. You can sign up on their webpage, take the free civics course, constitutional course. You'll be amazed at what you learn. And you'll be amazed at what you didn't know and the government hasn't taught you in these government schools. And we were originally going to talk about the courts today. But I don't know if it's worthy of discussing, because I checked out some of the stats, and there's not much going on in New Hampshire. We've had 800 overdose deaths in the past 2 years from heroin and whatever that other drug is called. Fentanyl, is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not that up on my drugs, so I don't really know. There's 750,000 children abducted every year on this planet, never to be seen again, or most of them never to be seen again. The people that are running, I'm sorry, let me back up. Some of the people running our state, along with some of the law firms in our state, are protecting both the drug dealers and the pedophiles or the child traffickers, because they're lowlifes and should be put in prison for life. So I don't know what to say about it. there's not much going on, and people are walking around like nothing's happening because the media is not reporting it to you. The media is part of the problem. They're bought and paid for too. They are part of the evil. I know it sounds, oh, he's crazy. Everybody can't be evil. No, everybody can't. Unfortunately, the evil people, a lot of them, are in power now in this country, and they're running us. We talked about the police a couple of weeks ago, and there's good and bad in everything, so I'm not condemning everybody, I'm not condemning government. What I am condemning is the evil and the corruption in it. And I will continue to do that every week with Dean. I know he feels the same way. We talk all the time. I wanted to talk about the court officers today because we talked about the police, and the same thing applies. If things have been changed from what they were supposed to be to what they are now for 150 years, and you were born 40 years ago, and you started working in a system that taught you about statutes and codes and regulations and ordinances and all this stuff, which none of which apply to you, only you don't know that because you were never taught that. This is a culture shock, because I've gone through this, by the way. And then you find out, or I hope you find out, that what I'm telling you is true, that as a sovereign man in this country, you make the laws. These two books, the state and federal constitution, were written by the people. Okay? They weren't written for government, for us to obey. The government didn't exist until these books were adopted. So anyway, the point that I wanted to make here is simply this. The court officers, the judge will say to a court officer, silence that man if he talks again, or whatever the reason may be. Don't let him talk. Hold him in contempt, put him in jail, whatever. Well, it's my contention that a judge can't hold you in contempt. The only court that can hold you in contempt and fine you is a court of record, which the state of New Hampshire did away with. They didn't have the authority to do that because it's our court. A court of record is a common law court, and it's the ultimate authority in the court system, which is why they got away with it, because now the Supreme Court has taken over. Court of record can't be challenged by the Supreme Court. If you doubt me, read the Fifth Amendment under the United States Constitution, the supreme law of the land. It clearly says that it says no fact tried by a jury can be otherwise re-examined in any court in the United States. Any court, that includes the Supreme Court. Reason for that is that the people are the ultimate authority. What they say goes. But our criminal court system run by lawyers and judges, the bar, okay, and there are some people, lawyers and judges, that are ignorant and don't know this, although I find that hard to believe. I'm trying to be nice and understand that there are good and bad and everything. They continue to run this system and treat you as a debt slave, U.S. citizen, a fiction, a straw man, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm saying this to the court officers. When you are told by a judge to silence somebody, you're stopping that person from talking. Or another name for that is you're taking away their right to free speech. Now, if you're in a courtroom, and a judge should be smart enough to know this. I've been in enough courts in my day in uniform to understand it. You're in a courtroom, you're fighting for your life, you're fighting for your children, you're fighting for your house. There's an emotional thing there going on. So if you raise your voice, you shouldn't be punished for that. The judge should be smart enough and humanistic enough, if that's the correct word, to allow that to happen. The court officers who are doing the bidding of the judges, all you're doing is creating a worse environment for your children when they grow up. You're a pit bull and not a court officer. Your job is to provide security for the court. Not for the judge, for the court, for the building. The people own the building. When they come in, they're supposed to be secure also, not just the judge. He's not, and to the best of my knowledge, Judge O'Malley, or whoever, I just picked the name. They haven't anointed him king. So when King O'Malley says, silence that man, you don't silence him. If you have to, walk off the job, quit. Oh, geez, I lose my job? Well, you lose your job or you lose your rights. Which one do you want? I said the same thing about the police. We're all guilty by our participation in this stupidity, this ignorance. And we have to get out of it. In order for us to get out of it, you have to educate yourself. So I'm asking the court officers and the police, like we did before, and in particular the legislature, I guess, because I'd love to see them learn the Constitution. There isn't enough time to go through these books for a half-an-hour program. But I mean, seriously, your children and grandchildren have to live in this world. Your actions are creating an environment for them. So you better start thinking about it. There's nothing in this for me. I'm not making anything up. I don't get paid to do this, and I'm sure as hell not looking for trouble. But I've researched this for years and years, as has Dean and other people who are waking up. I'm asking you to do the same, and I'll turn it back to you, Dean.
I have a question about the court officers. Are they working for the same corporate structure that the judge is, or is the judge operating on a different corporation?
No, regardless of what people say about that, they are operating for the same corporation, but regardless of what people say about that, our tax dollars are paying the judge and those people. And if they turn around and say, well, we get fines in here and everything else, yeah, 20% of the fines go into the judge's retirement account. So the more he fines, the more money he makes for his pension. Nice system, huh? That's called justice.
It's called extortion.
Thank you. The other thing is, and me and Dean talked about this once before, the CAFR accounts, which are hidden. They're hidden from the general public. They'll tell you, oh, they're right out here in plain sight. We have legislative hearings on them. Yes, they do. Who wants to go up and listen to a comprehensive annual financial report? Some of my background was in accounting, and I can tell you, I don't want to listen to anybody talking about numbers. But neither does anybody else. That's why these things are hidden. And there are 60, well, I don't know what the number is now. It's over $60 trillion in CAFR accounts around the country. Okay.
That was like 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was 8-10 years ago. I'm not sure when that came out. But the point I was trying to make, Dean, very quickly, is our tax dollars, the fees and the fines that we have to pay, which are unconstitutional in a courtroom, and the CAFR accounts all come from the general public. So we own the courts. It's still ours, regardless of if they're corporate or not. And I don't know why people don't get that. The money doesn't come, the judge doesn't recycle money and say, I'm going to pay myself $100, put it in his wallet, spend it, go back out and collect it and put it back in his wallet. It comes from us and the court offices. By the way, I applied for a court office job in Hillsborough about 7 or 8 years ago. And I just wanted a job for a couple of days. They have hiring full-time. They pay $68 a day, which is just above minimum wage. And I don't mean to embarrass anybody out there. If I needed the work, I'd take the work. An honest day's work, there's nothing wrong with it, no matter how much you get. If you accept the pay, you accept the pay. The point I'm trying to make is that they want people who are uneducated so that they can manipulate you. And if the more they manipulate you, the more they screw up our system and bring us down. I don't know how much sense I'm making. I'm trying very hard to appeal to you as a human because your family's involved in this, and it's getting very bad. The 750,000 kids kidnapped, the drug overdoses and deaths right here in the state of New Hampshire. Manchester, I guess, is the capital of the country. Little Manchester, 1.5 million people in the state, all right? And we're the capital of the heroin trafficking. And it's going on right under our nose with the business people and the politicians. They're orchestrating it. Don't believe me. Keep arresting the people who run a stop sign and you write them a $10 ticket. Don't bother with the people doing drugs that are killing people. Don't bother with them. Or kidnapping your kid and they disappear and end up in the Middle East, some sex slave to a pervert, a deviant. Anyway, I'll stop and you can go.
Well, it's interesting because for me, from my point of view, it appears that the state is using the same model that the oligarchy that runs our country is using. So when you look at the drugs are being brought in by the U.S. government. U.S. government is the largest drug dealer in the world. They use our military to protect the growth of the poppies over in Afghanistan. That's just one example. But the CIA has been doing drugs for decades, and it's been on record a number of times. So you can do the research there to find out for yourself. But they bring in the drugs, they create the drug epidemic, and then they own the facilities for which they do drug rehab, which means they extract more money out of the public that way. They also own, not only do they own the media, which we've talked about before, but they own the medical industry. And so they perpetrate this fraud on the American people. They make people sick. They get them into the medical industry and extract more money out of the public. So when you do enough research, you start to get this big fat design that's going on of this cycle of just abusing us as what they call us slaves. They call us animals, and they say that we are enemy combatants of the state, and they just put us in this perpetuated cycle of siphoning off our wealth and our prosperity. And I guess we just have just enough left over to keep us happy and not wondering what the hell's going on. So if you look at New Hampshire, you have the top politicians in this state, along with some of the top business people, running the heroin into the state, allowing it to happen, some of them being actually a part of it. And you can look up State of Corruption on YouTube. Michael Gill, he's been pointing this out for years. Nobody's doing anything about it because they're all in on it. It's corruption. The legal system is in on it. It's called corruption. So what they do is they bring the drugs in, and you have little old Manchester being the heroin capital of the country. And then the ones that are doing it decide, hey, let's build some rehab centers. We'll make a whole lot more money off the rehab of the people we're giving the drugs to. Do you see how perverted that is and how sick it is? That's what's happening in your state. And for those of you that are asleep and walking around pretending that nothing's happening because you're not actually experiencing it yourself, I want you to know that you are what is referred to, and I can't think of the quote, but all tyranny needs to grab hold is for good men and women to stand down and do nothing or to look away. So that's what Richie and I have referred to a number of times when we've said, or it's our ignorance that is killing us.
The best thing that I could tell people out there is, if you don't want to do anything, wait until your child's abducted and you never see him again, or wait until they're hooked on heroin and maybe they die, or their life is put through a living hell. Then you can start complaining. That's the time to do it. And someone told me this a long time ago, and it made perfect sense. In Nazi Germany, when they were taking the people and, they were telling them what was going on. They knew about Hitler becoming bad, evil, and everything else, the SS, all this other garbage. And they said, well, you don't get loaded on a train. They offload you onto a train, stand you next to a ditch, strip you down naked, and then you start saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to protest now. Just before they whip out the automatic weapons and mow you down like they did in Nazi Germany. That couldn't happen here because there's no evil people in the United States. I'm just saying hypothetically. If that happened, what would you do? Would you complain then, or do you want to do something about it now? You're living with an evil, evil empire, for lack of a better word, government. That's at the state and the federal level. And it took me a while to realize it because I'm not an easy follower. But Trump, he's given it his best shot. He can't do it alone. If that man, God forbid, he's assassinated tomorrow, what are we going to do? Let's wait another 50 years till another John F. Kennedy or Donald Trump comes along to help us. Yeah, that's a great idea. How about if we at the grassroots level get off our ass and start doing something? How about if we do that? There are things you can do. Contact the nationallibertyalliance.org. Get in touch with us on the screen. There's an email address. I'll tell you. I'll send you information you can look at. You can start finding out what's happening in this country. Start learning, educating your children. Sign up your kids if you're in junior high or high school. Sign them up on the nationallibertyalliance.org website, and they can take a free, doesn't cost anything, a free 120-hour civics course and a constitutional course that's separate from that. And I'll guarantee you they'll know what's going on after they take that. You will have some very smart kids, and it's free. Take advantage of it. Listen, I'm saying this, I'm very angry, but I try channel my anger in a good direction. So I'm not going to apologize if I'm offending anybody out there, because I hope I am. I want you to get mad. Don't get mad at me. I haven't done anything to you. Get mad at the people who are doing something to you. They're robbing you of your freedom. It's time for you to stand up.
Hear, hear, Richie. So National Liberty Alliance, you'll find at nationallibertyalliance.org. For those of you, I just want to read off a couple areas of research here. If you have access to the internet and YouTube, if you look up Jerry Day, he's one of the finer orators of anything he talks about, but he talks about the court systems. He also talks about the CAFRs, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports. So he's a great place to start because he's very articulate, very succinct in what he says, and it's very understandable when he says it. Also, if you prefer to read, look up Shinola 101, and also some other ones on YouTube. Greg Hunter is a great news broadcaster on YouTube. The Common Sense Show is a great place to go, and also SGT Report. Those are great places to gather some information. If you want to look at Cliff High does linguistic predicting, so he does. He has the web bot, what's called the web bot, which data mines the entire web around the world for words, and based on the theory that all humans are psychic to some degree, he data mines words that come up that start to be predictive for what's coming up in the future, and he's been very, very accurate. He's been doing it for close to 20 years. So something worth checking out. That's Cliff High. What else, Richie?
Well, if you want to get into videos on YouTube, documentaries, there's What Happened to the Constitution, and I continuously forget the man's name who does that, but he's very, very good. He's sounds like a young kid, but he gives you all the documentation or leads you in the direction of all the documentation supporting his claims. So it's really easy to follow, and you'll be, well, if you're a true red-blooded American, you'll be very angry to see what he has to say. It's another one is Season of Treason by Kurt Kellenbach. Another great guy, Walter Burien, and this is a little bit hard for people because it deals with money, but you'll be amazed, I mean amazed, at what this man tells you about these CAFR accounts and how the government is swindling you out of trillions of dollars. Trillions. And we don't even know about it. Right here, and this has nothing to do with a budget either. A budget and a CAFR account are two separate things. And when they talk about the budget, they're going like this, pushing the CAFR account back here so that you don't see it, you don't know about it. And if they need money, if they feel like it, geez, we gotta raise the taxes. There could be $200 million sitting in this CAFR account, but they have to raise the taxes because you and I don't know about this.
Right. A good analogy here would be like, okay, suppose the government has, your state government, for instance, or your local government has a checking account, and they label it the budget, and then they have a savings account, and that savings account is called the CAFR, C-A-F-R. So they talk to you about their checking account as though it was the only thing they have, it's the only money they have to spend, and if you guys, I mean, if they have to do more snow plowing this year than they did last year, then they're going to have to ask you for more money to put into the checking account because they're spending more than they thought they would. So you can see this is such a scam. It's such an outright, blatant scam, a con job on people, the American people, and the citizens of our state. It's just horrific. It's so irritating. It's almost funny.
Well, Walter Burien is the guy. He's the number one guy, I guess, in the country who explains the CAFRs to people. And believe me, as boring as it might be to sit through it, because as much as some of my background was in accounting, I don't want to sit and listen to numbers, but you really need to hear some of the things he has to say. And getting back to the court officers, I just wanted to mention that I'm picking on the court officers because our system, especially in law enforcement, and I don't care. I hope the sheriffs hear me in the state of New Hampshire. You people are dense, okay? You're dense. I tried to get to you people to show you the Constitution, the supreme law of the land here, to read it, and I couldn't even get an answer from any of you. I sent letters to all 10 sheriffs in the state. You think I'm looking for trouble? I'm not looking for trouble. You are heading us down the wrong road because you don't know the law. You think you do, but you don't know the law. Oh, yeah, this guy, Richie Merritt, he's a smart ass. He's trying to say he knows everything. No, most of my life I knew nothing. I was ignorant just like you are. But now that I've found out, I'm very angry because the children that are growing up behind us have to deal with what you're putting in front of them. That's your kids, too. You guys are going to get old and die, and your children and grandchildren aren't going to have you to save them. But you created this mess. You don't want to listen? Don't listen. And when it happens to your kids or your grandkids and you can't save them, you owe it to you. Look yourself in the mirror and say, did I do the right thing? No, you didn't. Because you refused to listen. You're enjoying the money now. The money's coming in. The Federal Reserve notes, the counterfeit currency that we all participate in and all we need. What's wrong with silver and gold? Isn't it? That has value, intrinsic value. You want to play with this freaking paper that means nothing? The Rothschilds and these pedophiles are running this system and controlling the money. Geez, I got to get 2 jobs. I got to get 3 jobs. I got to make ends meet. You don't need any jobs. Get a job without this system. Throw these bums out, all of us, and create a world where all of us can live in peace and harmony. And don't believe me, there's always going to be bad in the world, but you can live in peace and harmony for the most part. You can genuinely do it. I'm not. You deal with the 1 or 2 people out there that are creating, problems for people, and there aren't many of them. For the most part, people are good.
Thank you, Richie. All right, we're down to maybe a minute and a half. I do want to mention that last week we talked a bit about the Pizzagate scandal going on and pointed out there was quite a number of arrests happening around the country. The media is not reporting on it. They refuse to report on it, just like they refuse to report on the... that was weird. Just like they refuse to report on the riots that are happening in Paris and have been happening for 2 weeks. Did you know that? Did you know that Paris is literally having riots, public riots from the Muslim class of people who are upset that their immigration status isn't everything they thought it would be or something? I don't know. But anyway, the mainstream media is not reporting on it. They're not reporting on Pizzagate. And the reason is that many of them are involved. Unfortunately, if you can't swallow that pill, I don't know what to tell you. The truth is sometimes stranger than fiction, and yeah, it's difficult to wake up to what's really happening. But I promise you what's going to happen over the next couple months is going to blow your mind, because this is not going away. It is actually coming out of the woodwork. It's coming from behind the scenes, and it's, the light of day is being shed on what's really happening in our country, who's really running it, and what type of systems of control they have to make people, blackmail people, and to cause them to betray their fellow citizen and their country itself. Much of that is done through the pedophile. Let me just check my time. Through the pedophile rings, and that's what the pedophile island was all about, with that Epstein guy who happened to have flown the Clintons down there, Bill Clinton some 17 times and Hillary 6 times. Why do you think they went down there with that guy?
Get the sun.
Good grief. All right, we're out of time, so thank you so much for tuning in. We'll touch on Pizzagate again next week. And that's my...
Turn your TVs off. Get alternative media.
All right, you guys, have a great week. Thank you.